Hey, welcome back everybody. So we got the frame back in here in the garage and we're going to let it dry in here versus out in the wind and keep all the bugs and the dust and the leaves off of it. But she's starting to cure up. See, she's starting to get a little tacky there. Boy, I'll tell you what, that red paint sure turned out pretty good. Our leftover Ford engine enamel, duplicate color. And I think it's going to match real good with our Honda red engine over there. It's got a little bit of an orange tint to this color here, but pretty sharp, kind of a fire red. You know, and when we're close to being done, we'll put some flames on this baby because flames make them go faster. So come to find out, I think what we have here is an Azusa frame, A-Z-U-Z-A. And back in the day, this is 1995 is the engine, so I would assume sometime around that same era is when this frame was done. So it's, that's 25, 30 years old, and it has a lot of clamp-on parts. So the brake, the little, you got your fork on the brake there and you got that little rod to keep it from spinning around. That's actually a clamp on, and on the newer ones, they actually have a welded on rod right here to hold that. And I'll show you in the future videos once we get it assembled what I'm talking about. But the other thing is see those holes? So the big hole on the top here is for your axle and right back there. And see these down here, one of those you can make for a kickstand, or you can get one of those clamp-on style kickstands, and we may do that. I did go ahead and order a seat off of Amazon, so I just got a no-name brand. Hopefully the measurements for the boat holes will line up. It says it's exactly 10 from here to here at a diagonal, and then it's exactly 3.5 from here to here. A little bit over 3.5. So I think we got one, but it's basically a 12-inch seat that just basically sits right there. And that way we'll be able to do our fuel neck on the engine through the top of the frame. And the other thing that this doesn't have is it doesn't have a chain guide. So basically you've just got your engine and your rear sprocket on your rear wheel, and there's no pilot bearing or, any tensioner that you can adjust to put tension onto the chain. You actually put the chain on and then you slide the entire engine forward or aft to get the tension on the chain. So kind of funky and wonky, kind of cheaply designed. Obviously, this is probably a cheaper bike back in the day, but come to find out, I think it's a kit bike, but it is 30 years old. So, hey, everything I've seen out there, Azusa kit bikes, I believe they still make them, but, this is kind of cool. And then, here's the frame, the front handlebars in the frame. And some of the ones I've seen now, they've kind of got the radical rake or what have you. This one is kind of concave bent like this. So some of the handlebars don't have that that pullback, if you will. Talking in the motorcycle lingo there. So some of them, they have a negative pullback. So your handlebars would be kind of goosenecked out this way, if you will. So, but yeah, there's another shot at the red. So let's compare. So there's our red down there. There's that. And then look at our ortho. So it's kind of a little bit more like, kind of like that, a little bit brighter than the gas can there, but I think it's going to really make this pop. And then there's a good spot for some flames right there. So yeah, that engine, and I went ahead and ordered the air filter and the cleaner for this, like I said. And I will probably have to get a throttle cable because, let's jump over here. It looks like this and this brake, but it looks like this one is kind of shot. I don't think we're going to be able to reuse the other half of this. And then that brake, it's seen better days. And this screw here is totally stripped out and I can't get it out of there. It's seized on there. And then of course that bolt or that screw where the nut is on there, it's bent. So that's been seen better days. So come to find out, these little Japanese stamped things are just kind of standard back in the day. This one's kind of shot because it's bent, and no use on putting that one back on. Probably get some new ones and then keep all these original parts with it. And then these OG handle grips, man, I wish I could find those. That is legit. So we've got, one last thing, the chain. So look at all that crud that came out of that chain. But it did shine up pretty nice, and I don't see any stuck links or anything. It's really flimsy, real nice. And we'll clean that up with a wire brush, and look at all that stuff just coming out of there. And then we'll soak it in some oil and get that over. So we might need to get a chain, and then I think these will polish up really nice. We've got some, I've got some buff pad for my drill, and then I've got some Never Dull that I'll use on that. And probably, well, I think I've got some mag cleaner up here. Let's see. Leftover. So yeah, aluminum polish, that'll work. We'll buff it up with that. So like I said, we're using everything that we have left over from our other projects thus far. Our Cadillac, our Mini Cooper, our Volvo, and everything like that. And leftover paint, I had that can from God knows what, but, didn't have to buy anything. So right now we are at absolute zero costs, okay? Add $11, I believe, for a seat that I ordered off of Amazon. And then right now, that's where we're at. So I'm $11 into this, less everything left over. So if I was going to add up the paint, that's probably $8. So there's 20, let's say, right into it. And then I know I got to get grips, and I'll probably just get some of the ones, probably get the Amazon special or whatever and get some about $9-10 on that. The cable, another 10. So I think we're going to be right at our $50 budget on this little baby. And I'm just really impressed. I had that leftover paint. I can't believe it's the perfect color that I wanted to get out of this. It's not too Joel, not too kind of burnt red. It's not too flaming Harbor Freight red. It's that nice in-between, almost Honda color. And it's really going to make that engine pop on there. And especially with the white gas tank, that is so cool. So little red and white bike with the chrome wheels. Woo, baby. All right. And, like we said, we're not doing anything special on this right now. We're just going to go ahead and put it together and get it back to its original vintage, less the new seat, less the cable. I'll tell you the one thing I looked at, that if we do need to, the most expensive things will be the tires, if I need to replace the tires. A set is about $30. So that jumps our budget from $50 up to $80, depending on what I spend getting this back. Now, what are you spending $50, $80 on a Sidewalk Find mini bike? Well, because it's 30 years old, and that is just cool. It's to have something that is that old and that vintage. I mean, half of the ones are probably destroyed and in the landfill, or their engines are all seized up and everything. This one, the engine is right there. It's got all the parts and pieces just to put it back together. We'll get it there, and then we're going to find out what we need to do to make it cool. Maybe straight pipe. Anyway, more to come in the future. But look at how good those axles cleaned up, huh? Look at that. Woo-wee. And look at this, the brake drum. Yeah. So actually, let me talk. Remember what I was saying about the little fork on the brake drum? So the way this sets, see that the fork, if you will, those two prongs. So that would sit, let me get my hand here. That would sit almost like this, right? So you have your wheel, and then the drum would go inside there, and then the forks, that fork is right here, and then you would have a bolt coming from the frame going right there where my finger is to prevent this from going like this. Now, like I said, the new ones have it already welded on there. This one had it clamped. And if you look at the very first video in this video montage, you'll see I did a thumbnail of what this thing looked like leaning up against the fence when I dragged it home and put it there about 2 weeks ago. So, or about a week ago, I guess. So that's where we're at right now, 10 minutes into it. I know, crazy guy out here fixing up some little mini bike from 30 years old, but I think it's hey, it's Sunday, man. And, I spent about 4 hours on this thing in between waiting on the paint to dry. And now we got it back in here, and it's starting to, got a little wet spot right there, and a little bit of wet, and a little wet. So we're going to let this sit in here and cure, and get it nice and shiny. Look at that. I'm not going over it with clear. I guess I could go get another can of paint and put another coat on there. But, like I said, we're just using the leftover stuff. No harm, no foul, and spending just a little bit. I mean, tank of gas, right? We're going to have a little mini bike running. So, all right, folks, talk to you soon. And thanks so much for watching. And, yeah, internet's your friend, man. Azusa, 1995.